Well, after Governor Cuomo's surprising announcement that the L train would not fully shut down for 15 months like originally planned, some city officials are right now at City Hall asking for cash back for the years of planning and used resources. Let's listen in.
Do on time, on budget. However, I feel that the city deserves more information. We deserve more transparency about this particular new corporation, the private sector that has been identified as the one that will do the job. Also, there's a lot of questions about safety or cable that they will be installed outside the tube that they will be used after construction will be done. I feel personally that we need to be open to work on any private sector that is ready to do quality work based on those sectors providing a safe job to our city. However, my call is on two directions. One, the city should be recognized by the contribution that we made on all the resources that we spent planning for the shutting of the L train. We as a city have to quantify. It will be our responsibility, and I will be working with my colleagues here at the council, led by Speaker Johnson, the rest of my colleagues, to be sure that the Department of Finance of our council is able to quantify and be able to identify the dollars amount that we have spent as part of this process. I also going to be calling, or I'm calling today for the DOT, the New York City Department of Transportation, to do similar thing, to put a number on the table and bring to all those figures how much did the city, from the Department of Transportation that was the one in charge to lead the coordination, how much resources also did the council was able to put as part of this process, how many staffs, how many advocates group also were putting their resources to be part of those town hall meetings. That's one call that I'm making. One, for us to quantify the value of all those hours of the men and women that we used to organize planning for the shutting of the L train. Second, to quantify those hours. And the second call that I make is for the MTA to come to the City Council in a hearing that I'm looking to call for the month of February. I feel that many times it has been difficult for us to get the MTA, and I feel that this is the moment where New Yorkers, regardless if they're living Brooklyn on Manhattan, all New Yorkers would like to see more transparency, and this is the moment where I hope that the new President Andy Biden, with whom we have a great working relationship, also help us to persuade the rest of the team at the MTA and respond to a request that we already started making for the MTA to come to the City Council, present more details of the new plan that has been presented and identified by Governor Cuomo, and that the MTA will have to decide around that plan. Hoy nosotros estamos aquí porque es necesario que se reconozca la contribución de dinero que hizo la ciudad de Nueva York en toda la planificación para el cierre del tren L. Queremos que ese dinero se reconozca y la ciudad sea reembolsada por ese dinero. La misma forma pedimos de que la MTA venga a una audiencia pública en el mes de febrero que nosotros estaremos llamando. Again, I'm calling for the City of New York to be reimbursed by all the funding that we put it together, planning for the shutting of the L train. With that, let's get Ydanis from the Riders Alliance, and I would like to acknowledge here my great friend, Councilmember Fernando Cabrera, who is also supporting this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilmember Rodriguez. Chair Rodriguez at the Transportation Committee is uniquely well positioned to oversee the next couple of months to make sure that what is now, the governor is telling us, a great L train slowdown, not a shutdown, but a slowdown, happens safely. When we talk about safety, we need to look at the dust during construction, we need to look at the durability of the tunnel walls, and of course the quality of the signaling that's installed. And we need to have people from outside the MTA world, outside the world of Governor Cuomo, come in and take a look. Ideally, transit experts, recognized longtime transit experts from our global peer cities that honestly run better transportation systems than we do, like Paris, London, and Hong Kong, should come and take a close look at this plan and vet it before it proceeds. The Committee on Transportation and the Council is very well positioned to hear from those experts, as well as from former personnel of the MTA that we've been hearing from in the press gradually. President Bianco, formerly of New York City Transit, President Horadniciano, formerly of MTA Capital Construction, have weighed in with their reservations, and they should testify in a public forum here at City Hall so we can hear more about what happens. Meanwhile, on the DOT side, what DOT can do is to stick to its guns as far as the L-train mitigation plan. The mitigation plan was robust. It involved all forms of alternative transportations to the L-train when the subway tunnel was scheduled to be closed. And the fact is, it will be largely closed for weekends for 2 to 3 years, which means that riders will go down into the train, see that it's coming in 18 or 25 minutes, see that the platform is packed with people, give up in disgust, and come back up to the surface. What the city needs to make sure is that those transit riders stay transit riders, that there is an excellent subway-like bus service for them in place that they can ride that has priority on city streets and the bridge, so they can still get to where they're going without clogging the streets with cars. We don't want people coming up out of the tunnel and hailing a cab, hailing an Uber, creating tremendous traffic congestion, tremendous pollution that we call L-POCALYPSE. I'll let my colleague from Transportation Alternatives, Mark O'Connor, talk more about the other aspects of the mitigation plan, but a strong mitigation plan remains as important as ever. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mark O'Connor. I'm Deputy Director with Transportation Alternatives. We represent New Yorkers who bike, walk, and use public transit, and so that's why I'm here today. Our city has a transportation safety and a transit crisis that existed prior to the scheduled L train shutdown and is still here today. There were mitigation plans put in place that need to remain. We have on just Grand Street alone in Brooklyn, since 2009, more than 6 people have been killed. Protected bike lanes can help protect people on bike, people walking and driving. We need for the protected bike lanes scheduled for Grand Street, for 12th and 13th Streets in Manhattan to remain in place. We also have a congestion and transit crisis. We see that along the corridor of 14th Street and throughout Brooklyn on the L train corridor line. And we need for the dedicated bus lane, bus facilities, and expanded pedestrian space along 14th Street to remain in place. There are currently efforts in light of the governor's announcement underway for some local few residents who want to uproot those safety and transportation improvements that are already in place and some that are scheduled, and we cannot let that happen. We have a safety crisis, we have a congestion pricing and a transit crisis. We need to make transportation, certainly throughout New York City, but especially along the L train corridor, viable for people who are looking for alternatives in the coming months and years. And for that, we need to make sure that walking, biking, and using the bus is something that works, is efficient, is that the buses run on schedule and run regularly. And we need to make sure that those remain in place. And all of those improvements that I just outlined for improved pedestrian space, for protected bike lanes and the dedicated bus lane and transit, those were the result of years of community input from workshops in both Manhattan and Brooklyn. And the notion that that process can be uprooted so quickly, that is something that requires scrutiny. And for that, I'm grateful for the chairman that he's putting on and calling for this hearing, and that is something that we will be following closely. So thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Let's hear now from Councilmember Fernando Cabrera.
Thank you so much, Chair Rodriguez. My name is Fernando Cabrera. I chair the Government Operations Committee, and I'm also a member of the Transportation Committee. And I'm here to support the chair's leadership, because this comes down to safety. We want a safety plan. We want to make sure that this is done in a way that is going to protect the public, protect workers, efficiency, and so the work could be done in an expeditious way. at the same time as we are doing this in a very safe way. And also transparency. We'd like to see the details, and this is why I'm excited about this hearing. It's all about precision and details, and we have not heard about the details. And this is really at the root of the issue that I'm looking forward to hear it, so we could have a plan that is going to better serve New Yorkers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any question?
Councilman, have you gotten any estimate, or could you sort of assume how much money was used on the contingency plan? You're asking the MTA to repay the city for hours, but it's also money. It's, you have a ballpark? Yeah,
No,
like a ballpark.
well,
How much was spent on the contingency?
That's what we are announcing today. That I'm announcing today as a chairman of the Transportation Committee that I am calling for DOT to quantify the numbers of hours to give the value to those hours. So my call today is we are not announcing today how much was invested. What we are doing today is calling the DOT to put those numbers together, and that we as a council, we do the similar things. A large number of staff, all my staff get involved. The staff from the central office, they were involved. So today what we are announcing is that we are starting this process from the council perspective, that I'm also calling DOT to do similar things too. Later on, based on those numbers, I believe that the first thing is for the city to be reimbursed. I'm one of those individuals that believe that New York City should increase the contribution to the MTA. So by saying that the city should be reimbursed by whatever hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars doesn't mean that I'm not ready to continue leading a voice for this New York City to increase the contribution. I want New York City to increase the contribution, as also I believe that we need to work together to get congestion price. I believe that the MTA needs to get more funding, and then we need to expect more transparency from the MTA. Yes. I believe that the forensic audit should be done to the MTA, so that everyone should know how investment has been done at the MTA, so that we can put a better plan on controlling the cost. But in this particular matter, when it came to the L train shut it down, and the whole planning that we were doing for months, I think it is important for New York City to be reimbursed, and in the worst scenario, at least to be recognized with that contribution that we made, with all those dollars that we spent as planning for this process. I'm calling for New York City to be reimbursed any single dollars, any single penny that we have spent planning for the shutting of the L train. That's what I'm calling today. And it will require from DOT to work with their team to identify how many men and women were put in the street. How much did the city spend doing any survey, getting the feedback of riders? What planning, how many engineers were used for the New York City from our side, from the committee, from the Department of Transportation that was planning in that one.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you want to keep continuing with the mitigation plans to install the protected bike lanes, keep the bus lanes, keep the ferries? Are you going to continue with that plan?
100%. I believe that the mitigation plan was something that we should take advantage of. I believe that it is our responsibility to turn our city, the leading one, making our city more walkable, more friendly towards cyclists and pedestrians. And I believe that the mitigation plan was a good plan that we put on the table, and we should continue with that plan, regardless if we bring the new companies, regardless if the tunnels L train continue operating.
Why do you think that the MTA and the governor's office has not been forward about the details?
I want to be positive. I believe that we have a governor that he built the Mario Como Bridge on time. And we have seen the governor also building on a schedule, building the LaGuardia Airport. I believe that as we as a city can take a lot of credit for the UPK, from the basic day, when it comes to dealing with infrastructure, the governor has shown that he has leadership. So I'm not questioning his leadership. I'm not questioning his intention to bring an outside company. We live in a world that construction is made by corporations, that they deliver a good job, good project. But I feel that the call that we are making right now from different experts is we need to get more transparency. We need to be able to go through the process, and that's why I'm calling for a hearing. And I hope that the MTA will work with us to bring all the details in the hearing that I would like to happen in the month of February.
The members of the council, I'm curious if you have a comment on Governor Cuomo's thought that the MTA should be blown up, that it needs to be rebuilt from the bottom top. It's support that he said that. Do you have any comment?
Well, a few years ago, I put my transportation ideas and vision at Routing Center. And among those, we put a lot of ideas related to our train, taking advantage of the speed of the train to capture the electricity. We also call for the MTA to go through a forensic audit. This is something that occurred when the derail of the A train at 125th Street. To declare an emergency, to also get the MTA to go through not an independent audit, but a forensic one. We talking about a corporation that has $1 trillion value. I believe that this corporation cannot continue doing projects getting into debt. I believe that New York City should increase the contribution, but New York City also should have more seats at the board of the MTA. So I hope that we should be open to reorganize the board of the MTA. I believe that many leaders there, from the interim chair, Ferrer, and others, they have contributed, they have a lot of experience. I'm ready to continue working in collaboration and coordination with Speaker Johnson and all the advocates. What the riders want is to fix the train system. What the riders want is to take to get the train to get on time to be safe. And there's a lot of work. The crisis of the MTA has not happened overnight. This is accumulation of decades or lack of leadership at the MTA, and 2019 should be our year.
Can I ask you, I mean, the governor had to know that all these plans were in the works, and why does he wait till the last minute? I mean, are you annoyed about that? I mean, do you think there was anything underhanded about waiting till the last minute and it comes like a knight in shining armor?
For me, it's about fixing the MTA, making our transportation safer and more efficient. I believe that we need to open to many ideas. However, New Yorkers also deserve more transparency, and the MTA should provide more transparency. It is my commitment as a chairman of this committee to continue leading effort to support congestion price, to put to increase the contribution of the more wealthy New Yorkers, so that the MTA should have all the resources that they need. But when it comes to the MTA part, they need to be more transparency. And I believe that, for me, I want to be positive. I believe that there's a lot of question when it comes to what the governor and why we wait to the last minute. And that's why I'm calling for this hearing. I would like for the hearing to happen in February so that we can get to question and get more details.
No exact date.
I'm trying, as a process, we just make the request. Now we're waiting for that.
Why would you ask for a reimbursement on something that I'm understanding you also agree works? You're saying you support the mitigation plan. What would you ask for?
No, what we did was we were telling residents of Brooklyn and Manhattan that the train would be shut down. And how much the reimbursement, what is the formula to be used? That's something that we can get into the details. I believe that the mitigation plan is a good one. I believe that we need to make our city more friendly to our cyclists and pedestrians. So when it comes to, is there any pieces of the planning that we can say that we should subtract for whatever reimbursement? That's more technicality. But overall, what I'm calling in for New York City to be reimbursed for all these dollars that we putting a lot of staff from the council and the community transportation planning for the shutting of the L train.
And where would the reimbursement go to? Can you name some departments who might be reimbursed?
Well, as a committee of transportation, we will have a budget hearing. As in the MTA will come to us in the next few months, regardless if we have this hearing of the shutting of the train or not. And I'm going to be doing the best for them to come in February. But most likely in March or April, they will come for the budget season. And they will come in that briefing, they will recognize how much contribution the New York City is making. I think that that's going to be a perfect moment for us to say, this is also whatever. Do we get the money back? And if that money should be reinvested, invested in the local community. Will we calculate and give credit to that money as a contribution in New York City? that's, logistic. When it comes today, the most important thing is to call for the reimbursement, the contribution in New York City. Con eso, and before I leave, I would also like to take advantage to invite everyone for a hearing that I'm calling on January 23rd, around electrical bike and electrical scooter. We will hear those hearings on the 23rd, and I hope again that as I will be supporting the bill that I also co-prime to make electrical scooter and electrical bike legal in New York City, I'm also going to be calling during this budget season for New York City to build 100 protected bike lanes every year. Thank you.
We have been listening to New York City officials call on Governor Cuomo to reimburse the city after the change in the L train shutdown plan, now referring to it as a slowdown, not a shutdown. They say thousands of hours, manpower, and money went into planning this. They're now demanding that the governor be more transparent about what led to the sudden changes, as well as pay back the city.